Hey everyone, so I found the whole day for day 2. I'm gonna go ahead and stream that now. I hope you sit and watch with me. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and pin me out, please.
So it's back still putting it up through here. Yeah, I don't know. It basically, I mean, it's all how it sounds to the jury in 11A. That's. And then now, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know what tap on. And like, so that's not. I wonder, where's that? Oh, that's jury lower right there. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, it's at 32 dB right now. I haven't touched it. You're gonna come take that.
All right, that sounds better to me, so we'll see. All right, so are all sides ready to proceed with the cross-examination phase at this point? All right, Mr. Waheed, you're in courtroom 10G, correct?
He's here, Your Honor, yeah.
All right, okay.
Need a minute to do some evidence cards, Judge.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I just need a moment. I'm making some evidence cards, but I'm here.
Okay, all right, you can go ahead and bring the jurors in then.
And of course, as
All right,
always,
for those that are present on Zoom, you will hear the audio, but during this stage of the proceedings, you will not be hearing or seeing the video because it's in camera.
Now I'm just writing. Doing every separate, just, I don't know what you know about.
All right. All right, everyone may be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. I trust everyone had a good evening. We are here on day 4, and we are in the state's portion of the case. And as you know from yesterday, we're in the stage of the cross-examination of the witness. Before we begin, a couple things I need to address with you. First question is what you heard yesterday. Have any of you, were any of you inadvertently exposed to any type of media coverage between last night and this morning regarding this case, either by video, print media, or blog, email, or anything? Anybody been inadvertently exposed? All right, let the record reflect that no one indicated in the affirmative. Second thing is we're, as you know, conducting this testimony in camera with the witness in another courtroom. So technologically, we're having to transmit the signal into this courtroom. Very, very important for me that all of the jurors be able to hear and understand what is being said. So if you have a problem hearing what is being said, please raise your hand. Do not be shy. Do not be afraid, because I will stop the proceedings and make sure the question is restated or the answer is restated so that you do hear it. I also want to let you know that during your deliberations, you have the right to have any testimony replayed that you wish to hear. And so if there were parts of the testimony that you didn't believe you heard well enough and you want to hear again during the deliberation, just let me know and that'll be replayed for you. And my understanding is that the recording will come from the courtroom in which the witness was testifying out of, and that perhaps the sound will be a bit better. Last thing is, we have tried to work through some of the issues that I personally had with respect to the sound yesterday. I hope that they've been resolved, but I can't guarantee it because I don't know how well you hear or not. And so if you have a problem still, you'll let me know so I can take whatever measures need to be taken to ensure, above all, that you hear all of the testimony that's presented. So everybody understand that? So don't be shy if you can't hear, so I can take whatever remedial action I need to take. All right, so Mr. Waheed, are you ready for your cross-examination?
Yes, Judge, I am.
All right, so you may proceed, sir. Thank you.
Fiona, how are you?
I'm fine.
You might be nervous. I'm just here to ask some questions. If you don't understand anything I ask you, just say I didn't understand the question, okay?
Okay.
Let's start with your brother's name. It's Ronan Ty Tan Ferriter, correct?
Yes.
So you've been calling him Ty, correct?
Yes.
So do you want me to just call him Ty when we're talking about him?
Ronan is fine.
Ronan's fine. All right. So let's go back to Arizona. So some of what you talked about yesterday was Arizona, and some of it was Florida. Arizona, you were there from approximately what year to what year that you remember?
Left around 5th grade, and then we came back in the middle of my sophomore year, so whatever time period that was.
Okay. So you're in 5th grade. You think you were about, what, 10? 9, 10, 10, 11, something like that?
Roughly.
Okay. So, and then in sophomore year, how old were you?
I can, yeah.
Okay. So the Arizona years were about 4 or 5 years, something like that. Okay. All right. So you were there and then you came back to Florida, and the Florida time period was, you said, around late December of 2021. And then in this case, we're taking it up to the end of January of 2022. So in that time period, so that's about 6 weeks or so, correct?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. So substantially more time in Arizona, obviously, than this last time in Florida.
Yes.
Let me ask you a little bit about your brother's medical situation. You never went to the many doctor visits that he went to, correct?
No.
But your parents went to those visits, correct?
I assume yes.
Okay. You don't know if any parent went to a visit with a doctor?
I didn't really.
Okay. And you never obviously saw any of the medical reports that your parents saw, correct?
No.
And at some point, you were told by your parents something
Objection as to hearsay?
Sustained.
goes to effect on the listening judge.
I'm going to sustain. your
Irrelevant,
objection.
Your Honor.
I'm sorry? Ms. Coakley, you renewing?
Nothing else.
Ms. Coakley, are you renewing your objection? He's arguing the exception.
Your Honor, I would say then it goes to if there's not relevance, the effect on her.
Sustained.
On direct yesterday, you said that your brother wasn't allowed to have certain snacks, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that he was, your parents were trying to curtail the sugary snacks in his diet, correct?
That's what they said.
Okay, so you're aware of that, right?
Yes.
And you didn't go to any of the mental health visits that your brother went to. He was seeing a therapist. You didn't go to those, correct?
When was this?
This would have been in Arizona.
If he was going to a therapist, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, fair. Which would also mean you weren't aware of anything the therapist would have conveyed to the family in terms of Ronan's condition.
No.
Okay. So let's go back to the food snacks. Yesterday you said he was essentially not allowed to have food and snacks, but the other kids were, correct?
Yes.
Were you aware that, did you think your brother at any point looked malnourished or in any way like he was getting too thin or anything like that?
Yes.
And when did you convey that to anybody?
I never said anything.
And are you aware that the doctors he saw always found that he was appropriate?
Sustained. Sustained, and it's an improper question because you're assuming facts not in evidence, Mr. White. The objection is sustained.
Well, I'll be able to tie it up later, Judge. So it's a question of what she knows.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Move on.
Yesterday, you said that about the snacks, that he wasn't allowed to have snacks. Isn't it true? You do not know if when he was hungry that he actually ate snacks or not. You don't know that.
Sorry. Repeat that?
Sure. You're unaware that when Ronan was hungry, whether or not he actually ate a snack. You don't know that.
He wasn't allowed to get his own snacks.
You remember you spoke to somebody under oath back on February 1 of 2022. And directing court and counsel, page 55, line 8. As to snacks,
He provided me with a different prescription.
okay. You gave a statement on February 1 of 2022. It was not under oath. And in that statement, you were asked, if he's hungry, does he get light snacks? And your response was, I don't know.
And I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. And you don't know because you're not with Ronan all the time. You're not always watching him. You're at school. You have other things going on in your life, correct?
Yeah.
And you're a pretty smart child. You like reading a lot, correct?
Yes.
And you spend a lot of your time in your room reading by yourself, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. Let me talk to you about lights and Ronan. You were aware that Ronan had not been sleeping well, correct?
Yes.
And he in fact told you he would stay up sometimes at 3 a.m. because he couldn't sleep.
Objection as to hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Impeachment, Judge. From yesterday's testimony.
I'm sorry, Mr. White.
This is rebuttal of yesterday's testimony, Judge.
All right, this is still hearsay, sustained.
It's impeachment, Judge.
So you're not offering it for the truth of the matter asserted, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Solely for purposes of impeachment.
Correct.
Ms. Coker, your position?
There was no testimony as to any statement that Ronan made on this topic, Your Honor. We didn't even discuss his sleep habits with this witness, so it cannot be impeachment.
This witness talked about the lights on the outside of the room and that the parents would turn off the lights.
All right, so,
And she has testified.
but the question relates to what RF told her with respect to how late he was staying up, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
You talked about a few things yesterday. Some of them were in Arizona, some of them were in Arizona and Florida. You talked yesterday about your lack of contact with Ronan during those 6 weeks in Florida. Remember that?
Yes.
And reality is you were pretty busy doing homework or at school or at your sister's games during that time. And you didn't really have any reason to go to Ronan's work, correct?
Yes.
And you spent a lot of your time in your own room reading, correct?
Yes.
You also talked yesterday about Ronan not going to your events, and it was that you must be talking about in Arizona, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you 3 pictures. Fred, take a look at each. Tell me, do you recognize what those pictures are of?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to mark each one for identification, a little number. So the one I put a card on that says number 4, what is that a picture of?
You obey bandit.
I'm sorry, say that again?
You obey bandit.
Okay. And the picture marked number 5, what is that a picture of?
A concert.
Okay. And the picture with the card number 6 on it, what is that a picture of?
Snoopy.
Spelling bee. Okay. All right. And these are all events, your events, correct?
Yes.
This time I move these defendants 4, 5, and 6 into evidence.
Your Honor, state would object as to relevance. I also have some more specific objections about the time frame.
Relevance in
Arizona.
response, Mr. Wahid?
It's Arizona.
These are
And-
events that this individual, this witness went to in Arizona?
This individual went to in Arizona, correct? I have more questions. I don't want to get something in front of the jury, Judge, but yes, I was there. This is in response directly to when yesterday she said that Ronan did not attend her events. I just established that before I showed the picture.
All right, well, she's already said that he didn't, so
Right.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Rebut that.
I'm sustaining the objection. 4, 5, and 6 are not coming in. They're marked for ideas, defense exhibits 4, 5, and 6.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the court viewed the photos because they include Ronan in the photos. So that is direct impeachment. And the court can't see the photos right now. That's sort of the problem.
All right, so you need to do a sidebar. Mark, escort the jurors into the jury room. Mr. Wahid, you need to come up to this courtroom for the sidebar.
Right.
You're going to state here for a few minutes, we're gonna like discuss something, and then we're gonna come back, okay? You don't have to sit there, but you can go sit, over here if you want, more comfortable.
You don't have copies up here, Ms. Murad, that I can look at? Well, Ms. Murad, did you put evidence cards on all of the ones we just dealt with? Okay. Okay, all right. But Mr. White's clear on the numbers that we were assigning to them up here. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're good. All right, Mr. Wahid, it looks like we're still waiting on Ms. Coakley. Is that her that just came in? Okay. All right, so Mr. Wahid and Ms. Coakley, are both of you ready to proceed?
Yes, we're here, Aaron.
Yes, good.
All right, Mark, Ms. Murad, you're ready to proceed? Ms. Black? All right, you can go ahead and bring the jurors in. All rise.
Jury entering.
All right, everyone may be seated. All right, so for the record, the court is going to receive and accept Defendant's Exhibit 4 in evidence over objection. Court is going to sustain the objection as to Exhibits 5 and 6. However, the defense is not precluded from using those documents for purposes of refreshing recollection. Mr. Wahid, you clear on the court's ruling at this point?
I am.
All right, you may proceed.
So Fiona, if you look at the picture where number 4 is, the card is number 4 there. What's that a picture of?
Arizona Band-Aid.
Okay, and
All right, she needs to restate that. She needs to restate that answer because my jurors did not hear it. So state your answer again, ma'am.
as loud as you can speak, Fiona.
Arizona Band-Aid?
Better.
Arizona Band Day?
Yes. Band.
So I'm gonna repeat the answer here every once in a while to make sure, and you just agree or don't agree with me. So you just said Arizona Band Day.
Yes.
And in that picture is you with the awesome hat, correct?
Yes.
And you're holding an instrument,
Yes.
yes?
Yes.
And what's that instrument?
A flute?
A flute. So that's what you played?
Yes.
You still play the flute?
When I want to.
Okay. And next to you in that picture is whom?
Directly next to me is my brother,
Which brother?
Brennan
Okay. And in front of him is whom?
Pierce.
And next to Ronan
Yola,
is Noah. So that's all your siblings in that picture, correct?
yes,
So they did attend, and Ronan did attend that day, correct?
yes.
Okay. Now. I think the court already moved it into evidence, but it's my habit, so I'm moving 4 into evidence.
I've already received and accepted 4 in evidence, and I've dealt with 5 and 6 already. They're, this the objection sustained, but you can use them for refreshing recollection.
Yeah.
So, Madam Clerk, are you clear on the court's rulings on that? Okay, all right, good enough.
Put it back up the back. So, showing you 5, do you recognize this picture?
Vaguely,
Okay, what do you remember it from?
it was a concert I did.
Okay, so you remember that you attended a concert and your brother Ronan was present, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And then looking at 6, do you remember Ronan now attending your spelling bee? You gotta look at the picture though.
I am.
Okay. Who's that? I can't even see it upside down. Yeah, this-
It looks like Brennan.
Okay, good. So do you recall him? Sorry, do you recall him attending your spelling bee?
Yes,
Yesterday, you said that Ronan did not do his homework in the house, correct?
not, yes,
And that would include in Arizona, correct?
yes,
Showing you what's been previously marked as Exhibit 7. Do you recognize, what is that picture of?
me doing my homework.
Okay. And how do you recognize that?
What do you mean?
You know it's you because it looks like you?
That's me.
Okay, I just wanted to making sure. Okay, so that is a picture of you, and who else is in that picture?
There's Brennan in the background.
All right, and what's he doing?
Homework.
All right. At this point, Judge, I move defense 7 into evidence.
All right, so I've already heard sidebar arguments on this. Court's going to receive and accept Defendant's Exhibit 7 in evidence over objection. You may continue, Mr. Wahid.
Yes, Judge. Giving the clerk the evidence item. I don't lose track of that. Yesterday, you also said that Ronan was not allowed to attend family events. Do you recall saying that?
Not all the time.
All right. So he attended
Some family events.
some family events. Okay. And when he attended those family events, those would include trips outside when you know, to things that were like going to see like the Aerospace Museum, for example.
I don't recall the Aerospace Museum, but he would come sometimes.
Okay. Gonna show you defense 8. You know what that's a picture of?
I don't remember this.
Okay. So who's in the picture? Anybody remember?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you remember the people in the picture?
yes,
All right. Do you remember where this picture was taken?
no,
All right. Do you recall taking family hikes, which included Roman,
yes,
and to Sabino Canyon?
yes,
Do you recall your family, including Roman, spending time at the Tucson Hotel JW Marriott pool?
no,
Showing you what's been marked for identification in defense 10. Does that help refresh your recollection?
I don't remember this.
All right. Yesterday you said Ronan was not allowed to play outside, correct?
I believe I said not usually.
But he would be allowed to play outside, correct?
On occasion,
He would play outside in the backyard in Arizona, correct?
if you would call it backyard.
All right, well, setting aside,
All right, hold on a sec, Mr. Wahid. We're getting noise from outside that's interfering with our ability to hear her, so let that pass as the train. All right, I'm going to ask you to restate the last question and give the witness a chance to restate her answer.
my last question, Fiona, was whether you recall Ronan playing outside in the backyard in Arizona.
Yes,
And he would play at times with the other kids in your family, correct?
yes,
You recall all of you kids playing at a friend's house swimming pool in Arizona.
that's too general.
Okay. Well, a swimming pool in Arizona that was not your home, but the home of a family friend.
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're asking.
Let me show you something and see if it helps you narrow down where I'm going with this. Showing you what's been marked for identification is defense 12. You recognize that location and the people in that picture.
I recognize my sibling, but I don't recognize the person.
You don't, I have to get a clearer answer from you. I heard you say you recognize.
I recognize my siblings, but I don't recognize the person in the middle between my brother and my sister.
Okay. And your brother, that's Ronan, correct?
Yes,
All right, and you're at a swimming pool, correct?
Yes.
Your house didn't have a swimming pool, right?
Which one in Arizona?
Yes.
It did have a swimming pool.
Okay, is that your house in Arizona swimming pool?
No.
All right, so so is it fair to say that there were times where you all went out together, including houses?
At
with
times,
Ronan?
yes.
You recall going to Mount Lemon in Arizona with your brother Ronan,
Yes.
and that was like a family vacation day, correct?
Yes.
Was Ronan, did your family celebrate Ronan's birthdays?
Yes.
And by celebrate, how would they do that? Bring out a cake, everyone, family sitting around the table, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Ronan was involved in martial arts, correct?
Yes.
And your parents put all the kids, other than Pierce, who's very small, in some activities, correct?
Yes.
And you were involved in track at some point at basic.
I did not go to base.
Okay. Did you ever do track?
Yes.
All right. Was Ronan doing track with you?
Where?
When you were doing track?
I did track in 2 places here and in Arizona.
All right. Let's talk about Arizona. Did Ronan do track in Arizona?
Yes.
I know you didn't like track, so you didn't do track as long, correct?
No. Yes. Well, yes, I did.
I don't like running either. Okay, so let me ask you about tours. So yesterday, do you remember you saying that Rowan would be outside moving shells?
Yes.
That's here in Florida, correct?
Correct.
And that was this current time in Florida from end of December of 21 to the end of January of 22, correct?
Yes.
And the house your parents moved into in Jupiter had in front of it a tree with a bunch of shells around it, correct?
Yes.
And they didn't want the shells, so there was an effort to remove the shells slowly and get rid of them, correct?
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about that Ronan was working on, correct?
Yes.
You had chores in the house too, didn't you?
Yes.
And so did Nola.
Yes.
And the types of chores that you and Nola had would be mostly inside the house, cleaning up, that sort of thing, correct?
Yes.
And the types of chores that your brother Ronan had were mostly outside things, right?
Yes.
So Ronan had, posters in his room at some point, correct?
Yes,
In fact, your parents got those for him for Christmas, one of the Christmases, correct?
I don't remember.
Going to see if I can refresh your recollection with the statement you made on February 1, 2022. Current Court of Counsel to page 24, line 13. Just read it to yourself. When you're done reading that, let me. So there were some posters that your parents got Ronan for Christmas, correct?
Yes,
And at some point, Ronan shredded all of these posters, didn't he?
he did.
Ronan used to also have a dresser in his room in Arizona, correct?
He did.
And this dresser was taken out of the room, correct?
Yes,
And it was because he was ripping his clothes up when he got upset, correct?
yes.
And the dresser was placed just outside of his room.
This is in Arizona, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So in late January of 22, Ronan had run away, correct?
Yes,
He had run away at least 2 times before that, correct?
yes, but not here.
In Arizona.
Yes. I don't think it's, yeah, it is here.
And your parents at some point had a family meeting. I think it was when he first ran away and asked you all how you felt about him running away, correct?
I don't remember.
Referring Court of Counsel to the statement of February 1st, 22, page 32, line 16, at the end of the page. I'm going to give you this. Read from this line to the end of the page from when you're done.
Okay.
So your parents had a family meeting the first time you ran away. They asked you all how you felt about it.
Yes,
And your position was that,
Objection as to hearsay, Your Honor.
As to the answer or to the question?
To both, Your Honor.
All right, overruled as to the answer, and overruled as to the question as phrased. You may answer.
I'm going to ask this question.
The question was, what was her position?
Yeah, the question was exactly what was your position about, when they had those meetings, they asked you how you felt about it, what was your position?
And let me be clear, I'm allowing her to state what her position was, not what she said. She can testify as to what her position was and that not be hearsay. So I'm going to allow that.
can you repeat what you're asking?
Yes. So I'm going to go back to the previous question where I asked you, they had meetings, when you first ran away, they asked you all how you felt about it. What was your position on that,
On him running away?
on how you felt about that? How did you feel about that? Him running away, yes. First time.
I, I'm sorry,
You want me to ask the question again, John?
no, I heard you, I'm just trying.
Did the jury hear that? All right, do you need to have her restate that answer?
He said, I heard the question, I'm just trying.
Okay, so,
And she's not
all right,
I'm trying to think.
trying to think.
okay, all right, take your time.
When you, I'm just, I'm sorry. When he ran away, I wasn't really sure what to think. I was surprised, but also tried to understand why he would do it. I was worried, I guess is one answer, is my answer. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question though.
All right, I'm gonna move on. Is it fair to say that when he would be getting in trouble back then, when just around the time frame in Arizona, that you didn't often know why he was getting in trouble?
I didn't know the specifics of why he got in trouble.
Did you think at any point that he was being wild or energetic, anything like that?
He was hyper.
Did you ever notice it was very difficult to calm him down once he got going?
Yes,
Did you ever see your parents try to make efforts to calm him down with words?
yes,
Yesterday, you said that when he got in trouble and things would be taken away from him.
yes,
Well, there were times you got in trouble with your parents, correct?
yes,
And they would take things away from you, correct?
yes,
Like your electronics, right?
yes,
And Ronan had an eye touch and that got taken away at some point.
yes,
And you're aware Ronan would steal from inside the home.
yes,
You're aware at some point he stole other people's credit cards.
yes,
He in fact stole your money at one point.
yes,
And you and your sister did not do these same types of things, correct?
no,
You're aware that Ronan was asked to write sentences at some point.
yes,
And the sentence was usually, I will not steal, correct?
that's one of them.
Another one was, I will not lie.
Also another one.
You talked about the house in Tucson. The address was it 4245 East Havasu Road?
Yes,
Do you remember what the layout of that house was?
yes,
Going to show you some things too. Yeah, if I need to. So that house, there was, so you walk in the front entry and you're in the living room, correct?
Yes,
And then there's a dining room to your left, and a family room to your right, and the kitchen is the back on the left.
yes,
And then if you go to the left, through a door, there's a bedroom, correct?
yes,
Was that your bedroom? On the left?
yes,
Yes, okay. And then if you went opposite your bedroom, down some stairs, you get to the garage, correct?
and the way that was situated is my bedroom, there's a laundry room, down the stairs is the garage, and then there's the bathroom.
The bathroom is in the hallway between the garage and your bedroom.
It's on the other end of my, so if I'm looking at my bedroom here, bathroom's on my right.
Okay. And the other 3 bedrooms were on the far opposite side of the house from your bedroom, correct?
Yes,
So you had to cross from your bedroom through the dining room, through the family room and living room to the other 3 bedrooms on the other side of the house.
yes,
And before Pierce was born, Ronan was in one of those rooms, correct?
yes,
And so it's fair to say it was pretty far from your room in terms of the distance within that one house, correct?
yes,
And fair to say that Ronan moved into a room in the garage around the time that Pierce was born, right?
yes.
One moment there. I have no other questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. White. Ms. Coakley, do you have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may begin.
So, Fiona, I want to start with the layout of the house.
Mhm.
Well, you talked about being able to hear some of the physical abuse that was happening.
Yes,
What room was Ronan in at that
in the garage.
point? And so the location of your bedroom in the Arizona house as it related to the garage was close to the garage.
Yes,
And so you could hear the physical abuse when it was happening there.
yes,
And did you in fact see an instance where he was pressed up against the wall?
yes.
Okay. Were his feet on the ground when that happened?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did that incident scare you?
Yes,
What were you worried about?
that he was grabbing too tight, and that something worse than just hurt might happen.
Like, can you just say that a
She-
little louder?
She needs to restate
Something
that.
worse would happen than just, the grabbing.
Okay, worse like how?
Jury hear that?
Um,
All right, stop. Let's have her restate that answer so the jury can hear it.
So what were you worried worse would happen?
Objection?
Overruled.
I was worried that one day, that he might,
Objection?
Overruled.
that he would accidentally kill.
And is that based on the physical force that you saw?
Yes,
And the level of anger and aggression you saw the defendant do towards your brother?
yeah,
Is this emotional for you to talk about?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to think about my brother not being here. It's honest. It's not fair.
Now, on cross-examination, the defense asked you about were there times that you saw efforts to calm your brother down with words. What were those efforts like?
Angry. Stern, not comforting at all.
Okay, is that how he was talked to and treated by both your parents, Tim and Tracy?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Yeah.
At the time that it was happening to you, did some of the, well, you know, when you were living in the house, did you really understand whether or not what was happening to Ronan was wrong?
In Arizona?
Yeah, in Arizona.
Objection as to the foundation of the question.
Overruled.
Go ahead. Just make sure you speak loudly, please.
So can you repeat that?
Yeah, at the time when it was happening, all these things are happening to your brother in Arizona. Did you understand that what was happening was wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Did it kind of, your understanding of what was happening as you got older, did that it evolved?
It changed, yes.
Okay. How did it change?
It became more clear that, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
It kind of coalesced into like actual understanding of what was going on, so I could identify a word to go with it.
Okay, what's that word?
Abuse.
Now, we talked on cross-examination a little bit about some of the things that your brother did do with the family. What's the time period total that you lived in Arizona?
Again, I can't call exactly, but I want to say like 5 years.
Okay, so over 5 or 6 years, were there times that he got to do stuff with your family?
Yes.
Over that 5 or 6 years, there were also times where he was left home alone in his room.
Yes.
And times when you guys would be gone for all day.
Yes.
And he would be left home alone in his room.
Yes.
So those pictures that you looked at, that the defense showed you, those are all events that he went to in Arizona, correct?
Yes.
And some of them are as long as 5 or 6 years ago.
Yes.
And you saw that picture of him doing homework in the house with you. Is that in the house in Arizona?
Yes.
Is that a common occurrence?
Not all the time.
Was it rare for that type of thing to happen?
It would happen if someone had supervision, so I was there. I think, I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't, I'll just say it wasn't often.
So there were times, you're not saying that the stuff that happened when he was in the room was every single day, every minute of the day.
No.
There were times when he was outside and allowed to play.
Yes.
But most of the time, where was he?
In his room or then outside.
Now, I want to talk about Florida specifically. You gave us a word for what you felt like happened in Arizona. Is that word how you feel about how he was treated in Florida as well?
Objection.
Sustain, rephrase.
The defense asked you about, you know, in Florida, were you reading in your room a lot?
Yes.
Okay. Do you still know what's going on in your house?
Technically, yes.
And you lived in the same house as your brother?
Yes.
And during the time in Florida, did you see him a lot?
Not often.
And is that because he's out of the house at school or something else?
Either at school or outside in the yard.
And then where's the only other place he was?
Room.
Now, you mentioned about how he was treated in Arizona. Was he treated the same way in Florida?
Objection.
Overruled as to that.
Regarding work, he was outside and in his room a lot more.
You talked about how when you observed your parents deal with him, that there was anger Is that how, when they interacted with him, is that what you observed the situation in Florida as well?
Anger or frustration.
Was there yelling at him?
Yes.
That's all the questions I have.
All right. Ma'am, that concludes your testimony. You may step down. Thank you. All right, Ms. Coakley, do you have your next witness ready?
Sure, can we just have a 5-minute break and then, yeah.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute, we'll make it a 10-minute recess, and then we'll start back up with the next witness. All right, court's in recess.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it on and then.
For lunch. Ms. Murad or Ms. Waheed, Ms. Coakley. I'm suspecting we are a little bit behind schedule. Is that a fair suspicion on my part? Okay, so we're going to need to talk about a plan B then in terms of not finishing on Friday. I mean, I can start to see the potential writing on the wall. So start to think about what will be the plan B in terms of next week, if we have to go into next week. I know the hope is still to finish all the evidence on Friday, but if that happens, then we likely will be deliberating next week. And as I've said, next week, with Monday's a holiday, means we wouldn't start until Tuesday. So just plant that seed in your minds and think about what to do with that if by chance we don't get back on schedule, because I'm going to need to let these folks know at some point, maybe not today, but tomorrow, I'll need to let them know that we're a little behind if we remain behind schedule. Sometimes we catch back up, so there's still some hope for that. Anything else?
No, Your Honor, I don't think we're going to catch back up. In light of the length of the videos that at least the state.
And you know what? I think you're probably absolutely right. That's why I'm raising the issue now. So we'll deal with it as we move forward. Okay. All right. Court will be in recess. All right. We're back in session on State versus Ferriter. All sides ready to proceed? Okay. All right, give me just a moment.
Your next number 15.
And my bailiff's already made the notice to everyone about the emergency warning. We're supposed to get between 2 and 2:50, did you say? Yeah.
I can't turn off my phone yet.
I understand. There may be some phones that will hear the sounding, mine included, because I have to keep mine for messages from my judicial assistant. So I'm not going to require that you turn it off. So, but when they go off, don't anybody panic because it's just yeah. All right, so as soon as your witness is available, Ms. Coakley, you'll let me know, and Ms. Murad, Mr. Waheed, you folks are ready to proceed as well? Okay. It's off right now. Yeah, I'm on top of it.
For the record, defense is going to stipulate to the defendant's identity for those purposes, so I just want to put that on the record.
Okay. All right, so let's get the jury out here. We have the witness ready. You can go ahead and bring the jurors out.
All right, and the next witness, I'll need that again, but that's
It's
next witness.
Is it a Zoom testimony?
No, but we're going to publish some.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, you can use that at your leisure,
Yeah,
whatever
but
you
we
need.
might
it for.
need to like reconfigure.
That's fine. Yeah.
Jury entering.
All rise. All right, everyone may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. We are still obviously in the state's portion of the case. I'll be calling their next witness in just a moment. I don't know if my bailiff has let you know, but there is some emergency warning that's supposed to hit all phones between 2 and 2:50. If you have your phones on vibrate or off, if they're on vibrate, it may go off, so don't be alarmed if that happens. For those persons that are viewing these proceedings on Zoom, this proceeding immediately beginning in just a few moments will be covered by audio, and only a video portion of the attorneys in the gallery. The witness will not be shown on live camera per agreement of the parties in this proceeding. So with that, is the state ready to call its next witness? All right.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Coakley, you may begin at your convenience.
Can you please tell the jury your name?
My name is Ronan Ferriter.
What's your middle name?
Ta Ferriter.
Do you sometimes go by Ty
Yes.
among your friends and your family?
Yes.
How old are you?
16.
What's your date of birth?
09/07/2007 by the Vietnamese government.
Is that where you're originally from?
Yes.
Approximately how old were you when you came to the United States?
1.5 years old. I came here in February of 2009.
And how did you end up coming here?
I was adopted by Tracy and Tim Ferriter.
And you came, and then that's when you came for the first time into the United States?
Yes.
Now today, what grade are you in?
10th.
In school, what kind of classes are your favorite right now?
Math and science.
Okay. What kind of math classes are you taking?
AP calculus.
Okay. What about science?
AP chemistry for the final arts.
And so you have that big AP test at the end of the year?
Yes.
Do you know what we're here to talk about?
Yes.
Okay. Is this something, how do you feel about having to come in here and talk about this?
Apathetic.
Okay. Do you feel nervous at all?
Not really.
Is this something you like to talk about?
No.
Do you feel relieved about talking about it?
As I said, I don't have any feelings about it.
So you kind of told us that you came to the United States when you were adopted. I want to talk about who was in your family when you were younger. Okay. You said Tim and Tracy Ferriter were your parents?
Yes.
Did you have any siblings when you were younger?
Yes.
Tell us who your siblings were.
My siblings were Nola Ferriter, Fiona Ferriter, and Pierce Ferriter.
Okay. Of your siblings.
Second oldest.
Okay. Who's older than you?
Fiona.
And then Nola's next?
Yes.
And then Pierce is the youngest child?
Yes.
So how far apart are you, Fiona, and Nola?
Fiona is 2 years older than me. Nola is 1 year younger than me. And Pierce is 10 years younger than me.
Okay, so how old were you when Pierce was born?
11 or 12.
Okay. Does it sound, when was he born? February?
He was born in February of, yeah.
Around the 2017-ish? Is that right? Or am I wrong?
Let me think.
What grade were you in?
I was in 5th grade.
Okay, you were in 5th grade, so you were in elementary school about the time that he was born.
Yes.
Okay. So 10, 11, around that age?
Yes.
Now, in school, were you close in grade to any of your siblings?
My sister was 2 grades above me.
Which
Fiona.
sister is that, Fiona?
Nola, 1 grade below me, and Pierce, not applicable because he's not in school yet.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about what your family life was like when you lived in Florida. How many times did your family live in Florida?
Twice.
Twice. When was the first time?
When I was first adopted until we moved to Arizona.
Okay. How old were you approximately when you moved to Arizona?
I just finished 3rd grade.
Okay. So you're in Arizona. You were in Florida until the 3rd grade.
Yes.
And then in the 3rd grade is when you first were in Arizona.
Yes.
How long did you stay in Arizona for?
I stayed in Arizona for about 4 years.
Okay.
Until halfway through 8th grade.
Okay. So Arizona is 3rd grade through halfway through the 8th grade year.
Yes.
And so the first time you were in Florida, you were real young, like small elementary school age.
Repeat the question.
Is it fair to say that the first time you were in Florida, you were very young? It was young elementary school age.
Yes.
And then Arizona was elementary school and the very beginning of middle school.
I was there until my middle year of 8th grade.
Until the middle of 8th grade. And then you moved back to Florida.
Yes.
And so when you moved to Florida the second time, you're in the middle of 8th grade. How old were you? It was about 14 years old, seem right?
Yes.
Now, when you moved back to Florida, what time of year was that?
Somewhere in December.
Okay. December of the middle of your 8th grade year.
When I moved to Florida?
When you moved to Florida the second time.
Yes.
And where in Florida, like which town did you move to?
I moved to Jupiter.
And is that where your family's house was in Jupiter?
Yes.
And so did your whole family move with you?
Yes.
And what school did you start at?
I started at Independence Middle School.
Is that a school in Jupiter?
It's a school it's a school in Jupiter.
Was it close to your house?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about kind of how your family was run with Tim and Tracy, the defendants. Who was the person in your family who was in charge of the rules?
Tim.
Okay. Who was the person in your family that was in charge of deciding kind of what kind of punishment you would get?
Tim.
And who was the one that kind of decided how you would be treated, the person in charge?
Tim.
Now, did Tracy also go along with and support what Tim did?
Yes.
Was it an option for you if you disagreed with a rule or if you wanted to discuss the way you were being treated? Was that something that you could have a discussion with the defendant, Tim?
No.
Now, talk to me about when you moved to Florida. What was the house like?
The house when I moved back to Florida in 2021.
Yes, December 2021.
Yes.
Yeah. How was the house like?
So the house had a 2-car garage. It had 3 bedrooms, 1 office, and 2 bathrooms. And we also had 2 living rooms and a backyard.
Okay. Tell us who had the bedrooms? Who had what bedroom?
Fiona had a bedroom, Nola had a bedroom, and Pierce had the office as a room, and Tim and Tracy had a room together.
Okay. I want to talk to you for a second about something that's already been entered into evidence. The jury's already seen it. States 3A through C. Do you recognize what room we're looking at?
Yes.
Which room is that? There?
No.
Were those mattresses on there?
No.
In the floor? Do you know where those mattresses were?
That mattress was in either, if it's an inflatable mattress, it was in storage or in my room. If it was an actual mattress, it would come from my room.
Now, you mentioned that there was, thank you. You mentioned that that Nola had a room,
Yes.
Fiona had a room, your parents had a room, and Pierce had the office.
Yes.
Where did you sleep?
I slept in an 8x8 room in the garage.
Okay. Was that room built into the garage?
It was built inside the garage.
Inside the garage?
Yes.
Who built that? Or who had it built?
Timothy hired a contractor to build it in December of 2021.
Right. And how do you know that?
Because I was kept in their closet and I overheard the conversation of them having to build it.
Okay. Now, I'm going to approach something that has been entered into evidence already as States 9. Okay.
You may approach, and you can approach freely.
I'm showing you what's already been entered into evidence as States 9. What does that show?
This shows the room.
So is this a picture of the garage kind of from the outside?
Yes.
And then in there, can you see the back wall of the room?
Yes.
Is that the room that you're talking about that you stayed in the defendant's home in Jupiter?
Yes.
I want to talk about what it was like in that room. You said it was about 8x8.
Yes.
Did it have a concrete floor, or what was the floor like?
So the floor was concrete, but I used these little 16 by 16 inch mats of carpet to put down on the floor, so it wasn't so hard.
Okay, so it had a concrete floor, but on top there was a carpet laid on top of it.
Yes.
What kind of furniture did you have in that room?
I had a desk and a bed.
Did the bed have a bed frame, or what was it?
The bed had no frame, had no box spring. It was just a mattress on the floor.
Okay. And mattress on the floor, what size of mattress was it?
Size of the mattress was a twin size.
Now, did the room have any windows or any outside light?
No, it only had an air conditioner.
Okay. Let's talk about that air conditioner for a second. Were you allowed to touch or operate the air conditioner?
No.
Were you allowed to turn it on if you were hot or turn it off if you were too cold?
No.
Would you get in trouble if you touched the air conditioner at all?
Yes.
And who did that direction come from?
Tim.
Did the room have any lights?
It had a light, but it was controlled outside the room.
Okay, so if you wanted to turn on the light, is that something that you could do when you were inside the room?
No.
Did you have any control over when the lights were on or when the lights were off? Who controlled that?
My parents, Tim or Tracy.
Okay. Were there times that you were in the room in the dark?
Yes.
Is that at night sometimes?
Yes, and also during the day.
Okay. So there are periods of time during the day where you would be there in the dark in the room.
Yes.
What was it like in the room when the lights were off?
It was pitch black. You couldn't see anything.
Would you have to feel your way around to
Yes.
see what's going on? Now, did the room have a bathroom or access to the bathroom?
It had a bucket for my urine and feces, but that was basically it.
Okay. So if you were in the room and you were closed in there and you had to use the bathroom, what was your only option?
Use the bucket.
Now I want to talk about the time frame in Florida. While you were in there, were there times where you were locked in the room, unable to leave, and had to use the bathroom?
Yes.
And did you use the bucket in the corner of the room in order to relieve yourself?
Yes.
Now in Florida, did you ever have to use that bucket for feces?
No.
But did you have to use it to urinate?
Yes.
What about previously? We'll talk about it a little bit more depth. When you were in Arizona, did you ever have to use the bucket for Arizona for feces?
Yes.
Did you have to use it for urine?
Yes.
Because you had to urinate in the room on occasion. How was did the room smell at all?
Yes.
How did it smell? I mean, was it bad?
Putrid. Yeah.
Now I want to talk about whether or not was there a camera in the room?
Yes.
And what was your understanding of what was happening with the camera?
So the camera was a Ring camera. It had two-way communication, but the communication from the person viewing the camera to the person that is being supervised by the camera was separated by the click of a button on the phone or any device you can to watch the video.
So the person outside the room watching on the Ring camera could talk to you inside the room?
Yes, by the click of a button.
So they would have to click on something in order to hear them. And they could also potentially hear what you would say.
Yes.
Were there times that the defendants in this case, Tim and Tracy Ferriter, were there times that they spoke to you only through the camera?
Yes.
Now, we talked a little bit about the room, but tell me about the door. How was the room? Could you come and go from that room as you pleased?
No.
Tell me how it was.
So the door in Florida?
In Florida.
All right, the door in Florida of December of 2021
to January of 2022. Yes.
Yes. It had a normal lock on the handle and a deadbolt also.
Okay. Which side of the door was the normal lock on the handle?
The outside of the room.
Okay. And what about the deadbolt?
Also outside the room.
So when you were inside the room, were you able to open the door if it was locked?
No.
Okay. Did that happen? Were you locked inside of the room?
Yes.
Was that most of the time you were in the room, it was locked?
Yes.
Now, when you were in the room, were you always given access to water when you were locked inside the room?
I received water occasionally, but not at a regular basis.
Okay. So there are times when you're given a cup or a water bottle to have in the room.
Yes.
But there are also occasions when you're locked inside the room without anything to drink.
Yes.
Okay. And what about food? Did you ever eat any of your meals in the room?
I ate a majority of my meals in the room.
If you were in the room and you didn't have any food at that time and you were hungry, did you have the ability to get a
additional food?
No.
Is that something you were allowed to do, to go in the kitchen and get a snack or get additional food if you were hungry?
No.
If you did that, what would happen?
I would get.
Did you get punished?
Yes.
Ronan, did you like being in that room?
No.
Did you want to be in the room?
No.
How did it make you feel?
To me, being locked in a room, it's dehumanizing. It's almost as bad as genocide. It's saddening to abuse a child that was just acting like a child, never thinking of what an adult would think to do to a child that would succumb his or her efforts in daily life to succeed, suffering from emotional pain, suffering, trauma.
So, were you, did you have a choice about whether or not to go in that room? Like, were you forced
Yes.
by Tim and Tracy Ferriter to go into the room?
Yes.
If you resisted or, didn't follow their directions, what would happen?
I would be put in the room by physical force.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about, so the period that we're really talking about here is about a 5 or 6 week period in December 2021 to January, the end of January 2022, right? So I want to talk about what the majority of your life was like in that room in Florida. And just so we're clear, when you moved from Arizona, was the room there and ready for you?
Yes.
So you never stayed anywhere else in the house?
No, the room was not ready for me in Arizona, but it was ready for me
in Florida. I'm so sorry. When you came from Florida, when you came from Arizona to Florida, the room had already been finished being specially constructed for you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about kind of what your typical school day was like during that time period. All right. Typically, just on average, what time of the day would you be woken up?
I'd be woken up around 6:30 to 7 o'clock.
And how would you be woken up? Like, how would it be wake up time? Did you have an alarm clock? Would you naturally wake up? How would that happen?
Tim and Tracy would unlock my door.
Okay, so someone would come in?
Yes.
Would your lights have been off and you be in the dark?
Yes.
Before that? At that point, would you be given the opportunity to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
If you had to use the bucket at that point, sometime during the previous night, what would happen?
I would dump it into the bushes behind the house.
Now, you said that you would wake up sometimes between 6. They would wake you up on average between 6 and 7 in the morning.
Yes.
You get to go to the bathroom. What would happen when you were done going to the bathroom?
I would be put back in my room or doing household chores around the house.
When you were put back into the room, would you be locked in?
Yes.
And at this point, would you get dressed for school?
Yes.
Where were your clothes kept?
Outside the room.
And so when we say outside the room, like in the garage?
Yes.
Would you get breakfast?
Occasionally, yes.
Okay. So were there times, some of those days that they didn't give you breakfast?
Yes.
But were there also lots of days where they did in fact give you breakfast?
It wasn't a lot. It was probably 50-50.
Okay. When you would get breakfast, would that be out in the kitchen with the rest of the family, or where would it be?
It would be either outside or in my room.
Okay. And when you say outside, you mean outside the house?
Yes.
When it was in the room, what typically would you get for breakfast?
Peanut butter and bread and a fruit or something.
Okay, a fruit, like something like a banana?
Yes.
And so when you say peanut butter and bread, do you mean just like peanut butter on 2 slices of bread?
Yes.
And those would be brought into your room?
Yes.
And you would have it in the room?
Yes.
Would that be the breakfast almost every day? Or would there be variation?
I'll be the same breakfast every single day.
Now, what would you, while you're eating breakfast in the room, would you have to have anything to do in the room, or what would be happening before you go to school?
I had a sleeve of books and textbooks, but that's all I had.
Okay. Would there sometimes you do homework in the morning?
Yes.
what time approximately, so would you be in the room from the time you got let out at 6 and 7 in the morning until it was time to leave for school?
Yes.
What time approximately do you leave for school?
9 o'clock.
And then you get to school,
Yes.
and school's pretty close, right?
Yes.
And so you did in fact attend Independence Middle School while you were here in Jupiter, Florida.
Yes.
Now, at school, would you get lunch?
No, I brought lunch.
Who made that lunch?
Tracy.
And what would be in that lunch?
A plain peanut butter sandwich, either some sort of chips and a fruit.
Would you be allowed to, if you wanted to buy extra snacks at school?
No.
Were you allowed to have any more snacks than what was given to you in your lunch?
No.
Were you allowed to buy a school lunch?
No.
Did you want snacks?
Yes.
Did the other kids at school have snacks?
Yes.
Is that something that was kind of hard for you, that to see other kids getting snacks and not being able to have them?
Yes.
Now, what time approximately would school be over?
3 o'clock.
And what time would you get home from school?
Around 3:30.
And then when you would get home from school on most days, what would happen?
I'd be put back into my room.
And when you say put back into the room, are you locked in the room?
Yes.
And would you have been allowed to leave the room during that time? Would you be allowed, or did I confuse you?
Yeah.
Did you have the choice if you wanted to say sit in the living room and watch TV after school? Is that something that you could do? No. Could you be in the house? In the main house?
No.
Now, so you get back around 3:30, and then how long do you stay in the room in the afternoon?
On most days, until 7 o'clock or dinner time.
Okay. Would you eat dinner in the room or with the family?
In the room.
And are there some times on occasion that you would be allowed to eat dinner with the family?
Yes.
Most of the time, though, where were you eating dinner?
In my room.
And when you're eating dinner in the room, are you locked in the room?
Yes.
Are you, did they ever let you out before bed to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
Okay. Would that be kind of right before you went to bed?
Yes.
Sustain, rephrase.
Okay. When would you usually be let out to go to the bathroom? At the end of the day?
Like when Tim and Tracy go to bed, which is around 9-10 o'clock.
And after you're let out to go to the bathroom at night, what happened next?
I was locked into my room.
And then throughout the night, are you locked in the room?
Yes.
Now, when the defendants would go to bed, what happened with the lights?
The lights were off or on.
Now, in the room, I want to talk about we talked about what furniture you had. At some points during this time frame, did you have other things in the room?
Well, I had my small selection of toys and just books.
Okay, so books, toys.
Yes.
Toys. At some point, did some of those out of the room?
Yes.
And then you said that you had books and toys. Was there a point where you only had books?
Yes.
Did those books eventually, some of them get taken away?
Yes.
And how many books were you kind of left with?
Like 2 or 3 textbooks.
Were you allowed to have electronics in the room?
No.
Go ahead.
The only electronic allowed in my room was my school computer.
Were you allowed to have it in with you at all times?
No.
Just when you were doing schoolwork?
Yes.
When you had your school computer, were you allowed to play computer games on it at all ever?
No.
Is that something that a lot of middle school kids do?
Yes.
Is that something that kids would talk about doing at school?
Yes.
Did you want to play games on your computer?
Yes.
Now, we talked a little bit about the lights being off at night. Were there times where the lights were off during the day?
Yes.
And approximately when that would happen, how long would that go on for? Like, would it be for 5 minutes or would it be for longer than that?
We'll be around for a couple hours.
Now, I want to talk about other times in Florida. Were there times in Florida where you were in fact outside of the house,
Yes.
or inside the house itself?
Yeah, there were times where I was inside the house.
There were some occasions where you were allowed to be in the living room.
Yes.
Is that what you mean, or in the kitchen with the rest of the family?
Usually I was just in the living room doing chores, or in the kitchen also doing chores.
Now, was there time in Florida where you were outside of the house?
Yes.
What would you be doing outside of the house mostly?
Raking leaves, moving shelves. Yeah.
Now, when you were outside of the house, are you under the direct supervision of your parents, or are you kind of out there by yourself?
They had a camera to watch me, but it was another Ring camera. But otherwise, I was not supervised while I was outside.
So you'd be outside of the house by yourself for periods of time?
Yes.
Now, were there a couple occasions where maybe you did get to play or interact with your siblings outside?
Yeah.
But for the most part, when you were outside, what were you having to do?
Yard work, chores.
And could you, when you were doing the yard work or the chores, if you got hot or you needed a drink of water, were you allowed to just go in the house and get those things?
No.
Were there times where the front door was locked and you couldn't get in?
Yes.
What would you have to do in that circumstance? Would you just have to wait outside, or
yes,
something
I had to
else?
wait outside.
Okay, until they decide to let you in?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about in Florida, were there instances where the defendant in this case, Tim Ferriter, acted toward you in a way that was physically aggressive?
Repeat the question.
Was there ever any physical aggression toward you in Florida?
There was instances of grabbing and pushing, but otherwise, no.
Right.
Physical contact, such as punching, hitting, smacking.
Right. That none of that happened during the time frame in Florida.
No.
Were there times where he was verbally aggressive to you in Florida?
Yes.
What kind of things would he say to you?
It would say, "This is a piece of
You can spell it.
SHIT. You better, you better pick it up." Yeah.
Would he call you names?
No.
Would he yell at you?
Yes.
Would he scream at you?
Yes.
Did it appear to you, based on how he was interacting with you, that he was angry at you?
Yes.
And is the same true for Tracy?
No.
Now, because of his verbal aggression, did you have a belief as to whether or not he could, if you didn't listen to him, or if that there was a risk, or that were you concerned that he would be physically aggressive to you?
I could safely assume that he could cause bodily harm to me.
Overall,
And is that based on some of your prior experiences in Arizona?
Yes.
overall.
Now, I want to talk about Arizona now. Okay. That's where you lived immediately prior to coming to Florida. We ended up talking about Florida, about times where you were outside and couldn't come in the house. Did that happen in Arizona as well?
Yes.
Were you locked outside?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I had to move rocks and stones and shrubs and cactus around the lawn, but I was unable to go inside to eat or get water.
Now, in Arizona initially, when you said I think we said that you moved there in early elementary school.
Yes.
You said, I think around 3rd grade. Initially there, did you have a room inside the house?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me how the rooms were initially when you moved to Arizona.
So that you wanted to describe the room?
Yeah.
All right. The room, it had a desk, it had a dresser. It even once had a coffee table for me to play chess, and it had a bed with a mattress, box spring, bed frame. Yeah. And
Is that your room inside the house?
yes.
Okay. And during that time frame, is Pierce born at that point?
No.
When at some point in Arizona, did they build a different room like structure for you in the garage?
Yes.
And the defendant's the one that had that built?
Yes.
When approximately did you end up having to go into the garage room?
About a week before Pierce was born.
Okay. And you said that's about when you were in the 5th grade?
Yes.
Okay, so around 11 years old. And there, prior though, when you were in the room in the house, was that room, the room in the house, ever locked?
Yes.
Was it locked from the outside? So in the room, when you were in the room in the house, were there times when you couldn't leave or go into the room when you wanted? In the house in Arizona?
Yes.
Did that room have access to a bathroom?
No.
Now, I want to talk about the room in the garage in Arizona. Was that room similar to the room that you lived in Jupiter, Florida?
Yes.
Tell me about that room.
So it had a bed frame, a box spring, and a mattress. It had a desk.
Did it have any windows?
No windows. Just there was a wall-mounted AC conditioner, and it had also had a dresser, which was removed from the room at later stages.
Were you allowed to touch or utilize the air conditioner?
No.
In Arizona? Did it sometimes get hot?
Yes.
And did that room have a bathroom?
No.
Did it have the bucket that you already told us about?
Yes.
How did that room smell?
Bad.
In Arizona, you kind of gave us your average day here in Florida. Was it similar to the amount of time that you were in the room in Arizona?
Yes.
Were there times in Arizona that you were in the room for longer periods of time?
Yes.
About how long would you say is the longest?
About 18 hours.
And were there times where you didn't get meals in that room in Arizona?
Yes.
Would that happen for like the whole day, or would just a meal or two, or explain to us how it was?
Reset.
When you wouldn't get meals, how would that happen? What would that be like? Would it be every meal, or give us some context?
I had a fluctuating frequency. Sometimes I got all 3 meals, sometimes I only got 1, sometimes I only got 2. Yeah.
Now, were there times that the family went to events or out of the house and you were alone locked in the room?
Yes.
That happened in Florida too?
Yes.
Now, in Arizona, we talked about the fact that there was some physical aggression in Florida, but there wasn't physical punishment. In Arizona, was there physical aggression from Tim Ferriter towards you?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
One time I got smacked in the face.
Okay. Do you ever grab you by the neck or push you against the wall, anything like that?
Yeah, he did that.
Sustain, rephrase.
Tell me about some other instances besides getting smacked in the face.
He would grab me by the neck. He would grab my arm. He would yeah.
Was there ever instances of physical punishment in Arizona?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
So he had Tim had a jump rope. He used me for punishment and also a belt.
Okay, and when you say a jump rope or a belt, what would he do with those?
Spank me with them.
Okay, hit you with them?
Yes.
Where in the house would you be when that happened?
In my room.
Okay, who else would be in there?
No one else.
So just you and the defendant.
Yes.
Would the defendant be saying anything to you? Would there be yelling or anything like that?
There'll be a lot of yelling. Yes.
And did it seem like he was angry at you during these?
Yes.
Now, during the course of your childhood, your time in the time we were talking about in Arizona and also in Florida, did you ever see any of your sisters get punished?
No.
Would they be punished or treated in the same way that you were for the same type of conduct?
No.
What was the difference?
They got their phones taken away for like a day or two.
And what would happen to you?
I would get locked in my room. Yeah.
Your Honor, if I can just have a second.
You may.
And just to kind of clarify, going back to Florida, when you are in that structure that they built in the garage, are you physically able to leave or escape? Like without, just normally, are you able to escape?
Sustain, rephrase, counsel.
Were you able to open the door from the inside?
Overruled.
You can answer the question, that means.
I totally forgot the question.
Yeah, it's okay. Were you able to open the door from the inside when it was locked?
If I had a key, no, but I didn't know.
But did you have a key?
No.
Did you have any way to get out of the room once they locked you inside?
I devised a couple of plans, but I didn't.
Right. Were any of those plans have worked?
It was one time where I stuck a Lego piece in the pin for the door, but I kind of realized that wasn't deep enough.
So there wasn't a way immediately available. Was there a way immediately available for you to be able to leave that room? That's all the questions I have.
All right, cross. You're going to do the cross, Ms. Murad?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may begin at your convenience.
Hi, Ronan.
Hi.
So we're gonna, I want to talk a little bit about what the state has said. I know you've been sitting there for a long time, so if you need a break, let me know, okay?
All right.
Okay. So do you think it's fair to say that you talked a lot about your time at Tim and Tracy's house on direct examination, right? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
and nope, that's okay. Since we're recording, you do have to answer out loud, okay?
Okay.
So if I ever say if that's a yes, that just mean I want to get it on the record, all right?
All right.
Okay. Do you think it's fair to say that it's hard to think of the good memories because everyone around you now has a bad image of Tim and Tracy?
Overruled. You can answer.
We say that question again?
Sure. Do you think it's hard to think of good memories when everyone around you has a bad image of Tim and Tracy in their mind?
I can easily recall the good times, but not. I don't have a bad image of Tim and Tracy. They just made a mistake. They were just acting out of frantic surprise of my actions. They weren't. I believe that they weren't trying to do any harm.
Yeah.
I believe that people should recognize that was a mistake and forgive them and move on.
I appreciate that, Ronan. I want to talk a little bit about the family schedules that you all had in your house, okay?
All right.
So you have 3 brothers and sisters, right?
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. Nola, right?
Yes.
Fiona
Yes.
and Pierce.
Yes.
Pierce is a little baby.
Mhm. Yes.
And right now he's probably about 2 or 3 years old.
I think he's either 4 or 5.
Okay. I'm sorry, I probably have the dates wrong. So Pierce, obviously, when he was a baby, Tracy took care of him a lot, right?
Yes.
And Tracy was the one who normally stayed home,
Yes.
and Tim worked a lot.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that Tim was, for the most part, Tim was the one that was working and Tracy was the one who was at home?
Yes.
And Tim also traveled abroad a lot for work.
Yes.
So you also have Nola, who is the sporty one. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So she has softball, right?
Yes.
I think she played soccer too.
She played soccer in Florida and before we moved to Arizona.
Oh, okay. But softball was her main thing.
Yes.
And she would have a lot of practices, right?
Yes.
You would go to some of those practices.
Yes.
And Fiona would go to band.
Yes.
And she also, I think, did concert band, right?
Yes.
So there was marching band and concert band.
Yes.
And Tracy would be responsible for driving her around to this stuff as well.
Yes.
You had your activities. I know you tried track, right?
Yes.
I think in Florida you did chess for a little bit.
Yes.
So Tracy's kind of running around trying to keep everybody at their various activities. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. You did this with the state, but I want to establish a little bit of a clear timeline for the jury. So you were adopted in, I have the date in front of me, in 2009?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you're adopted in 2009, and then your family lives in Florida when you're a baby, right?
To be honest, we didn't. I don't know I don't know where I lived between in my younger years because I can't remember because I was a toddler.
Fair enough.
But
Will you take my word for it that for a couple of years you were?
Sustained.
You remember living in Arizona after that, right?
no, I remember living in Florida. Then I moved to Arizona. Then I moved back to Florida. That's
Okay.
all. That's all I remember.
Okay. So you're in Arizona from about when you're about 11 or 12 all the way up to December of 2021. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I think you were a little younger, but all the way up to December 2021, and then you moved to Florida, right?
Yeah.
And you ran away around end of January 2022? The most recent time.
Yes.
Okay. So the time frame we're talking about that you stayed in Florida most recently in Tim and Tracy's house was end of December 2021 to end of January 2022, right?
Sorry, I'm distracted. Say that again.
That's okay. When you all moved to Florida, the most recent time, it was about Christmas time, December 2021, all the way to end of January 2022 when you ran away,
Yes.
right? Okay. And when you moved, I assume there was no school because it was Christmas time.
Yes.
And your family was moving boxes, trying to get everything packed up, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then after that, you pretty much started school after the Christmas holiday.
Yes.
I want to talk about the different rooms that you had. We'll start with Arizona, okay?
All right.
So the first room you had, not the first room, but what the state was talking about was a room inside the house in Arizona that ultimately had a lock placed on it. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yes.
And that room had a lock placed on it while Tracy was pregnant with Pierce.
Yes.
That room had a window,
Yes.
it had a desk,
Yes.
it had a dresser, it had a bed,
Yes.
and it had a closet.
Yes.
And you said it also had a coffee table for you to play chess,
Yeah.
which you're still really good at, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And that door was not always locked.
No.
There were times that you could move in and out for freely from that door.
Yes.
The next room is a week after Pierce is born, about a week.
I think
I'm
we're
sorry,
a week
before.
Yeah.
Sorry, a week before Pierce is born. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And that room was built in the garage.
Yes.
Now, you and the girls, by that I mean Nola and Fiona, had previously, not this room, but used the garage to like watch movies and stuff, right?
Yes.
But this garage room was built specifically for you,
Yes.
and it had a bed,
Yes.
it had a desk,
Yes.
and it had a dresser.
Yes.
And you think it was about an 8x10 or 8x9 room as well.
Yes.
It also had stuff on the walls, right?
Yes.
I think you had like a periodic table on it. Is that a yes?
Yes.
But then sometimes you would get angry and rip that stuff off the
Yes.
walls, right?
Yes.
Tim and Tracy never took that stuff off the
No.
walls. And that room also was not always locked.
That room was always locked.
Okay. So it's your testimony that at no point could you sort of move freely in and out of that room in Arizona.
I cannot. That door was always locked.
Now I want to take you to the room in Florida, which was built in December of 2021. Okay.
All right.
That was an 8x8 room, right?
Yes.
That room also had a bed, a desk, a dresser, right?
No dresser.
No dresser, I'm sorry, just a bed and a desk, right?
Yes.
And then the clothes you said would actually be kept outside the room.
Yes.
And part of that was because you would sometimes hide electronics in there, right?
Yes.
And you have like ripped up your clothes before too?
I only done it once, and that was in Arizona, but I don't rip my clothes.
Okay.
But not on a regular basis.
All right. But sometimes when you get angry, or at least one time, you did rip up all your clothes.
Yeah.
And that bed, I know the state said you moved in December. In that Florida room, you were warm enough.
It's not that I was warm enough. It was that I was too warm, and we had a fan. We put a fan in my room.
I see. So you had you had sheets and a bed, right? Or like sheets and a pillow
Yes.
and a blanket.
Yes.
And then you also had the air conditioning unit installed there.
Yes.
Your Honor, can I approach?
You may. Approach me.
Oh,
No.
sorry. I meant the witness. I was wondering. I was like, why the background noise?
I didn't see anybody moving toward me, so I assume you meant the witnessing.
Ronan, I'm going to hand you, this is a little lawyer talk, what I have marked as Defense Exhibit 15 for identification purposes only, okay? Do you see that photo right there?
Yes.
Is that a photo of you?
Yes.
And is that a photo of you in the room in Florida?
Yes.
And I think that's early on before you had some of the stuff removed from your room, right?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of, at least at one point, what that room looked like?
Yes.
At this time, defense moves to admit Defense Exhibit 15 into evidence, during Hallmark's identification.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Court receives and accepts Defense Exhibit 15 in evidence without objection.
May I publish it to the jury?
You may.
Ronan, in this photo,
Ms. Murad,
see that-
carry the mic when you're
Oh,
walking
sorry.
away.
I see that there's some posters on the wall there too, and I know when the police came, they weren't there. When you got upset, did you rip up those posters too?
Yes, ma'am.
Tim and Tracy didn't remove them?
Nope.
And sometimes, I know the state talked about how you weren't allowed to have electronics in your room. Those electronics were removed, right?
Yes.
And is that because of things that you did with electronics?
I didn't do all that. I did nothing wrong with it. Well, yeah, I did go into bunch of schools things and do some not so legal stuff. And yeah, and I would factory reset school laptops and tablets.
Yeah, and so they would take away your electronics when you got in trouble with the school for kind of messing with their IT system, right?
Yeah.
And I know the state also talked to you about how you were only allowed that school laptop, right?
Yes.
But only to do homework, not to do games.
Yes.
But you also jailbroke that laptop, right?
Yes.
The first thing you said to this jury was that Tim and Tracy made a mistake based on trying to respond to your behavior, even if they didn't handle it correctly. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about that behavior, okay?
Okay.
So would you agree with me that sometimes when you get angry, you throw things,
Yes.
you kick things,
Yeah.
and you punch things?
No.
Do you remember giving a deposition in this case?
Approach. All right, you may continue, Ms. Moran.
And so because of that technology breach, you were restricted from technology at home too, right?
Yes.
So you weren't allowed to have like iPads and stuff in your room, so that stuff had to be removed.
Yes.
I want to talk about something else that happened at Immaculate Heart that your parents did find out about. Do you remember going into your sister Nola's class?
Yes.
Okay. So on that day, I think tell me if I'm wrong, you were mad at Nola
Yes.
and you had pretended that a teacher told you that it was okay to, you went into Nola's classroom, right?
Yes.
And her teacher was Miss McCoy, if you remember.
Yes.
And you told Miss McCoy that you were allowed to make an announcement, right?
Yes.
And the announcement that you made was really derogatory towards your sister,
Yes.
and it made your sister cry. And your parents found out about that.
Yep.
So your parents then, Tracy came with Nola and Tim came with you, right?
Yes.
And they both came to the school
Yes.
and you both spoke with the teacher separately, you with Tim and Nola with Tracy.
Yes.
I think you brought a box cutter to school.
Yes, that was at Basis Charter Schools.
Oh, that was at Basis. How did your parents respond to that?
They locked me in my room.
But a box cutter is a dangerous thing, right?
It was more like a it's a dangerous thing.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about Basis Academy and how your parents responded to some of the stuff there, okay?
All right.
Okay. At Basis, you also attempted to hack into the school computers.
I did, yes.
And because of that, you had to get your technology removed again.
Yes.
You also said something in class that was inappropriate.
Yes.
And it was asking if the Holocaust is a good thing.
Sustained.
So after that inappropriate thing, your parents did find out about it, right?
Yes.
And they were mad
Yes.
because that's not something you should say, right?
Yes.
At Basis Academy, you also stole chemistry books.
Yeah.
You stole a student's tablet.
No.
Did you steal a computer and a tablet? Maybe it didn't belong
Oh
to
yeah,
you.
yeah, I did.
Okay. And did that belong to another student?
Yes.
Were your parents mad when that happened too?
Yes.
And did you get disciplined for that?
Yes.
So it looks like a couple times you're kind of doing things and you're just, regardless of what they're doing, you're not stopping. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
You did a search on that computer that you jailbroke at Basis.
I jailbroke a what's it called again? A tablet, but not a computer.
Okay, so you jailbroke the tablet, right?
Yeah.
And then you did a search on there.
Yeah.
And that search was concerning to your mom and dad.
Yeah.
I won't talk about what the search is, but is it fair to say that it was something that it was understandably concerning to them because it sounded a little violent?
Yeah.
Do you remember playing with Pierce when you were in Arizona and him getting facial injuries?
Well, yeah.
And did your parents tell you to stop and not go so fast?
Yeah.
But you still did it?
Yeah.
And that hurt. Did you remember him getting a lot of injuries on his face? It's okay. It's like a, just wait a second. The test. Kind of pretending sometimes and telling stories.
Sustained. Rephrase.
Is that would you characterize yourself as someone who likes to pretend sometimes?
Yes.
And tell stories?
Yes.
And those stories can be really detailed.
Yes.
You like to add details to those stories?
Yes.
Do you think sometimes you have an impulse to tell stories and kind of make something up for people to believe?
Yes.
Overruled.
That's a yes?
You can answer. I think you did answer.
Yeah,
yes.
he did. Do you also have a method of picking sort of which adult is going to be easiest to influence for you?
All right, you need to approach on that. All right, the objection sustained. You may continue, Ms. Moran.
All right, Ronan, I want to talk a little bit about some of the, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but you remember that your parents did take you to doctors, right? Therapists,
It took me
doctors.
a couple of doctors. Yes.
Yeah, so you went to a few different people, right?
Yes.
Probably on a weekly basis?
No.
Do you remember giving a deposition in this case? It was like in a room. I was there. Ms. Coakley was there.
At SP.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And in that deposition, you said it's not one of my top priorities in reference to seeing doctors in Arizona. It's not one of my top page 126, the deposition.
What's the legal basis of the objection, Ms. Coakley?
All right. So.
I need to address the objection. Are you making it? You're fine. Okay. All right, you may proceed, Ms. Moran.
Okay. So in that deposition, you said it's not one of my top priorities to think about people that I meet like once a week. And that was in reference to seeing doctors in Arizona. Is that what you were asked? And is that what you said?
All right, you can sustain it that you can show him the question and the answer, and then ask him if that was his answer to the question.
So I want you to read page 126. It does require a little context, and then look up when you're done, okay?
I must have made a mistake. I said.
Okay, but that is what you said in that deposition, right?
Yeah, but
So does your answer yes stand? If it does, you need to proceed with the next question. This is impeachment. He's only supposed to read the question and the answer and just state what I'm just saying so he understands. So, sir, the question is simply, you've been presented with the question that was asked on deposition, and you've been presented with your answer. The only question you need to answer at this point is whether that was your answer at the time of the deposition. So what? Now, let me get the answer to this question. Was that your answer at the time of the deposition, sir?
yes.
All right, so you can approach now. All rise.
Jury entering.
All right, everyone may be seated. Ms. Murad, you may continue with your cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I think, Ronan, where we left off, can I call you Ronan or do you prefer to be called Ty? I'm sorry, I didn't ask that.
Ronan's fine in this setting.
Okay. I asked you earlier and you said that you did not get 3 meals a day in Florida, right?
I occasionally got it, but sometimes I didn't.
Okay. So may I approach, Judge?
Okay.
I'm referring to page 142 of the deposition, lines 5 through 17. I'm going to hand you a portion of your deposition.
I want you to take a look at it, okay? And when you are done, please look up.
You were referring to
It's about lines 5 through 5 through 17, I think. I'm sorry? 11 through 14.
Are you referring to Arizona or Florida?
Florida.
Florida, I got all 3 meals.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in Florida, your mom made you breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right?
Yes.
And for lunch, she would pack you lunch.
Yes.
You would get a water bottle, like an empty water bottle that you could fill up at school.
I do recall having a water bottle at one point, but I think I lost it.
But she intended to give you the water bottle before you lost it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you got a sandwich?
Yes.
Chips?
Occasionally, yes.
And a piece of fruit?
Yes.
You also, you mentioned that your mom got you bread with peanut butter and bananas for breakfast, right?
Yes.
At that time, you were vegetarian or vegan?
Pescatarian.
Pescatarian. Okay. So you were getting like a pescatarian breakfast at the time.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit, or you talked in direct examination about sort of the snacks that you wanted, right?
Yes.
So do you recall going to a pediatrician and the pediatrician not, saying less sugar is way better for you?
I'm sorry, let her finish the question so I can then hear the objection. So I lost the question in the middle of the objection. So restate the question and then make your objection and I'll rule.
Thank you. Do you recall a pediatrician telling you that, or your mom, that sugary snacks might be bad for you?
All right, staying.
It goes to effect on the listener.
You can rephrase it in a way that doesn't require hearsay. So
Okay,
I'm sustaining the objection.
Is it fair to say that in general, Tracy and Tim wouldn't allow treats and sugary snacks like that for any of the kids for the most part, right?
The girls got snacks like that, sugary snacks like that, but I didn't.
Okay, and they got it as treats, right?
They had that as easy access. They could access it whenever they wanted. It wasn't necessarily an incentive to get that, but it could, if they wanted candy, it could spontaneously happen.
And you weren't allowed to have things like candy, Oreos, Funyuns. Those are the kind of snacks you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When they removed sugar from your diet, do you remember feeling a lot better and less hyper?
No.
Do you remember telling that to a doctor? A Dr. Martin?
Is he bald?
I don't know if Dr. Kathleen Martin is bald.
I'm sorry. No, I don't. Sorry, I don't remember.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to maybe look at that medical record?
Yeah.
Okay, just give me one moment.
All right.
And then we'll look at it. Your mom would do your laundry?
At a point where I would, we would alternate times doing laundries. Like I would do the clothes, she would do the clothes, then the next day I would do the clothes. Yeah.
But okay, so it was like a rotation of everyone doing laundry. Is that fair
Not
to say?
just me and my mom and occasionally Fiona.
Okay. So you, your mom, and Fiona would sort of rotate who does the laundry.
Yes.
Fair? Okay.
Yes.
So that was a chore that everybody shared.
Not everybody.
Okay. That was a chore that the three of you shared.
Yes.
Okay. You stated in direct examination that sometimes well, let me put it this way. You said in Florida you got 3 meals a day. You'd never feel hungry, right?
I felt hungry, yeah.
Do you recall a conversation that you had with Detective Sharp?
Yeah.
Approach.
I want to talk a little bit about sometimes I guess kind of the way you feel or some of your actions in general. Is it fair to say that you get angry sometimes impulsively?
Yes.
Sustained.
Can I approach, Judge?
You can approach. All right, the objection sustained. Ms. Murad, you may continue. You may.
All right.
After you looked at that, you were asked if that room in Florida was always locked, and you said that it was not always locked, right?
Yeah.
And if the jury sees ring video of inside that room during the time that you were in Florida, they'll be able to see what happened in the room. That's fair to say, right?
Yep.
When we talked about a lot of those behaviors, is it fair to say that sometimes you can't control your impulses?
Sustained.
Is it fair to say that sometimes those things, those specific things that we talk about, they can cause harm to other people?
Sustained.
When you do something like ride a bike really quickly and your brother gets hurt in the face, that causes harm to him, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when you do something like hit another student, that causes harm to them, right?
I do not. What's your? Yeah, hitting a student causes harm, but I do not recall hitting a student.
Okay. You remember we were just talking and you said that you put your finger and your finger and your thumb on a student's throat at one time?
That was horse playing, and it was not intentional for them to be harmed.
Okay. But it is something that could hurt somebody, right?
Yes.
When Tim and Tracy would discipline you, it was always in response to something that you did.
Yes.
And sometimes it would also be in response to something that you did that could cause you harm.
Give me an example, please.
Do you remember almost starting an electrical fire in Arizona?
Like playing with the outlet? Yeah.
And that did almost cause an electrical fire?
No.
Okay.
It didn't. I know how to prevent one.
I'm sorry? Take your time.
Yeah, I remember playing with an outlet.
And that's something that could have hurt you?
Yes.
And it's something that could have hurt other people in the family, right?
Yes.
May I have one moment, Judge?
You may.
No further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Morad. Redirect, Ms. Coakley.
In that incident with playing with the outlet, was that in Arizona?
Yes.
Was that in the first room in Arizona inside the house?
No.
So in the time frame in Arizona, were you doing that to try and get out of the room?
Not exactly. I was just trying to, I was a curious mind at that age, so
You
I
were
didn't know what
curious?
I was doing.
Were you bored?
Yeah.
Did you not have a lot to do?
Overruled. You can answer.
Was there a lot of stuff to do in that room? No. Now, we talked about the situation that happened with Pierce when Pierce fell off the bike.
Yeah.
Was that an intentional act by you
Nah, I was just playing too roughly.
with him? Was that in Arizona?
I was in Arizona, yes.
Okay. Was Pierce on a bike?
Yes.
And what were you doing?
I was pushing him around on the little tricycle.
Okay. So you're pushing your little brother on the tricycle?
Yeah.
Were you going kind of fast?
Yeah.
Was your little brother, what was his reaction while you were pushing
He
him?
was laughing, having some fun.
Okay. So were you having fun with your brother?
Yeah.
How did it happen that he fell and hit his face after?
So I tripped on the flagstone. Then that trip, I pushed me a little too far, and the bike fell over and pierced his face.
So was that an accident?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about some of the incidents, some of the things that you have told us that you did. Let's talk for a second about Immaculate Heart. What grades were you in Immaculate Heart?
4th and 5th.
Okay, so you're in elementary school?
Yes.
So the incident that the defense asked you about that happened at Sunrise that you say you don't remember with the punching another child, is that before Immaculate Heart?
Yes.
So you're like in 3rd grade?
Yes. Well, I was in Sunrise in 4th grade for, I'd say about around November.
Okay, so 4th grade.
Yeah.
4th grade is when so you're in elementary school when that happened?
Yeah.
And then the incident that we talked about with the pushing, you said it was rough horse playing with another kid with the hands on pressing against his neck. Is that also in elementary school when that happened?
Yes, that was in 5th grade.
In 5th grade, so you're like 11 years old?
Yes.
The incident where you went into Nola's class and made an announcement about Nola, what grade are you in then?
5th grade.
So you're 11 years old?
Yeah.
Why were you mad at your sister?
Because I couldn't get the snacks that she wanted. Well, the full story is I couldn't share food, but Nola was able to share her food with others and get the snacks that she wants, and I wasn't allowed to do that.
And so did the fact that you and your sisters had different rules and abilities, is that something that caused you frustration
Yes.
as a child?
Yes.
And at that point, in 5th grade, when you're 11 years old, are you already in the room in the garage before that happened?
No, I was.
Or are you not sure really when
I'm not
when the garage happened
I
in relation to the 5th grade?
In 5th grade, I was put in the box in 5th grade.
But you're not sure if this was before or after.
That's the only time frame I can remember.
Okay. Now, they also asked you about some things that happened at basis, and they said a box cutter, and you started to say it wasn't really a box cutter. What was it?
It was a little scalpel. That's it.
A scalpel?
Yeah.
Like a little, just had something that had a little sharpness to it?
Overruled.
So something that had a little sharpness to it, was small?
Yeah, it was just the tool with a serrated edge.
Did you bring that to threaten anyone?
No.
Did you bring that to hurt anyone?
No.
Did you threaten anyone with it?
No.
Did you just bring it to show people?
I was in 6th grade and hey, look, I found a cool tool in the toolbox.
Okay. At that point in 6th grade, are your parents already having you live in the structure in the garage?
Yes.
When that happened? Now, I want to talk for a second about some of the computer stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have an interest in electronics?
Yes.
Do you like to take things apart?
Yes.
Is that some of the times when you would take things, would you take them apart?
Yes.
Some of the devices?
Yes.
And then would you try and put them back together?
Yes.
Okay. Now you mentioned, they mentioned like that there at some point during your childhood in Arizona that you went to some doctor visits. That was something that Miss Murad asked you about. In your life, did your parents take you to the doctor?
Yes.
Okay. Did they take you to the doctor? Is your recollection in your childhood of going to the doctor every week?
Not every week, but at least before every school year. Do you mean like a pediatrician or like a psychiatrist?
Did they take you to sometimes like a therapist or a psychiatrist?
I remember seeing a therapist once or twice in Florida, but not.
I'm talking about
but not-
Arizona.
Arizona, I don't think so.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a second about, they asked you about in Florida, did you sometimes break the rules?
Yes.
And you said that sometimes it could be as much as 5 times a week
Yeah.
that you would break the rules.
Yeah.
When we're talking about breaking the rules, are you breaking the rules in a way that hurts the physical safety of anyone that you live with? Are you hurting anyone intentionally?
No.
Are you hurting yourself intentionally in Florida when you're breaking the rules?
Possibly.
Okay. Are you doing things like stealing candy?
Yeah.
Okay. And not talking to your parents when they want you to answer?
Yeah.
Doing things like having a bad attitude?
Yeah.
I missed the first objection. Was it? All right, I'm going to sustain that. Rephrase.
So when we're talking about breaking the rules that defense asked you about in Florida, the way that you're breaking the rules is not hurting any of your siblings intentionally, or is it hurting any of the siblings?
Sustain as to the original question, overruled as to the rephrased.
Is it hurting your siblings intentionally? We're talking about in Florida.
No.
Now, Ms. Murad asked you whether or not the punishments that your parents would do was in response to you breaking one of their rules. The type of punishment you got, did that punishment was that punishment traumatic for you? Or was being in that room?
It was unusual, but.
Was being in the room dehumanizing for you?
Yes, it was.
That's all the questions I have.
All right, does this conclude this witness's testimony? Let me just take the video off for a second. All right, you can step down. Thank you for being here.
I just want to say something real quick. Are they trying to say that he deserves everything he got because he was such a horrible child? No.
Witness, he is still under a defense subpoena, so I'm
Okay.
gonna pass this.
All right, so he is not excused from the proceedings altogether.
And it's still sequestered.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I forgot to publish my specific.
All right, court is back in session. Ms. Coakley, you ready to call your next witness? All right, Mark, Ms. Murad, Mr. Wahidi, are you ready? All right, so let's get started. Go ahead and bring the jurors out. All rise.
Jury entering.
All right, everyone may be seated. Ms. Coakley, call your next witness.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, Ms. Coakley, you may begin.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Christopher Lowe, Lowe.
Who do you work for?
I work for the Jupiter Police Department.
And what do you do for them?
I am the digital forensic agent for the Jupiter Police Department.
How long have you been total with the Jupiter Police Department?
Just over 9 years.
Are you a sworn police officer?
I am.
And you said that right now you're the digital forensic examiner for the Jupiter Police Department.
That's correct.
What does that mean that you do?
So what I typically do is I assist investigations anytime there is digital media or digital devices involved, and I'll assist with processing that.
So sometimes in cases there might be cell phone evidence or other types of digital evidence.
That's correct.
And so you assist the officer.
Yes, I'll assist either officers or detectives.
Now, are you like involved in the witness statements or otherwise involved in the investigation of a case?
Typically, I'm not.
As a digital forensic examiner for the Jupiter Police Department, did you assist Detective Andrew Sharp in his investigation of Tim and Tracy Ferriter?
I did.
What kind of digital evidence did you assist him with in this case?
So I assisted Detective Sharp with the download of search warrant results from Ring through Dropbox.
Hey, tell me what's Ring. Are you familiar with what Ring is?
Yeah, so Ring is it's a manufacturer of home security cameras, and what they allow users to do is observe live or recorded footage via their mobile device or computers. And
that recorded footage is that something that Ring keeps possession of or a copy of on their servers?
They do.
And if a police department has a search warrant, will Ring provide that information to the police department?
They will, and they did.
Is that what happened in this case? Did the Jupiter Police Department obtain a search warrant for any video from the Ferriter's Ring cameras?
Yes, a search warrant was obtained.
Now, and you said that you help somehow with the Dropbox. How, when Ring returns or responds to your search warrant, how do they give the data to you?
The way this transpired was Detective Sharp forwarded me an email with a link to a Dropbox folder. And that Dropbox folder was created by Ring subpoenas. Ring subpoenas uploaded the search warrant results to this folder. I then accessed the folder, observed that there was 11 subfolders and nearly 20,000 videos within, I downloaded those contents onto a physical hard drive, and that hard drive was then placed into evidence.
So when Ring responds to a search warrant, do they let you as the police officer like go through their servers yourself?
They do not know.
Do they just provide the data to you that is responsive?
They provided the data to the Dropbox folder, of which they are the owner of the folder, and I would just have permissions to view and download.
You said that there are 20 files. That sounds like a lot of data.
Correct.
On average, the files in there, those 20,000 files, how long is each one?
Each file, which in specificity, they were all video files, except for a few Excel files. They were approximately 1 minute in length.
Did that make sense in the light of the type of evidence you usually get from Ring or that Ring keeps?
Yeah, so in my experience, users with Ring are able to customize the length of videos that are recorded, but typically 1 minute video is the standard for Ring.
So does Ring, when Ring is collecting or preserving the videos from their Ring cameras, are they preserving like an entire continuous stream, or is it done a different way?
No, so the majority of the videos, even when, well, let me back up. The videos are typically motion activated recordings. If the motion occurs for more than that 1 minute time period, then the video is stopped and then restarted and a new video is continued. So for example, a 5 minute interaction where there's motion would have approximately 5 videos, individual videos of approximately 1 minute.
So if, for example, it was a doorbell camera and it's night and there's no movement, there's not going to be any recordings of that time frame. Is that accurate? Is it possible though, because it's motion activated, that some of the videos may capture things that have no relevance at all to the case or the investigation?
Absolutely. Any videos that would record maybe someone sleeping, they toss and turn and would record that subject moving, but then there would be a long period of time while they laid still before another recording occurred.
Or like a front door video camera, would that get something, maybe the neighbors moving?
It could, yes.
And that would activate it, but that might not necessarily be of importance to your investigation.
Right.
So then does it become a situation where you have to find some way to manage all of this amount of data, or go through it, organize it, categorize it?
Yes. So I find personally the technique used that I utilized in this investigation was to go through and notate timeframes and then categorize that into the appropriate folders of dates and times associated.
Now, does all of the data that was returned to Ring, does all of it come to you with the information about the time frame, the time and date? Did all of the videos have that information?
No, as I mentioned, there was 11 subfolders within that main folder that was provided by Ring. Of those 11 subfolders, 4 of them contained Excel spreadsheets that had timestamps associated with file names. And then the other, that would be 7, did not include that Excel spreadsheet. Again, of those 11 subfolders, 5 of them included videos that were time-stamped. Their file name was actually a version of a timestamp. So that was also another way to notate ways to categorize the videos.
Now, did you were you able to see or the information that you provided, is it all, or that was provided back to Ring, were you able to tell that it's all from the Ferriter's household based on just the looks and what the content of the videos is?
Yes.
Is it all from one camera?
It is not.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So of those 11 subfolders, I looked through a cursory search of the folders to understand what we had received back. And each subfolder contained, again, hundreds, if not thousands of videos, but each file had a thumbnail associated with it. And what a thumbnail is just it's a small image representation of the video that's associated with. So I was able to see through the thumbnails in each of the folders, the camera views associated with the folder. So there were approximately seven different views provided of those 11 subfolders.
Now, did you ultimately locate data related to the structure in the garage where Ronan Ferriter was kept?
Yes, after looking through the subfolders, if I can refer to my notes, I can provide you with the actual folder the data was contained in.
You don't need to give me the folder. We don't
Okay,
need to go that.
but yes, I was able to locate the videos associated with the camera located within the structure, the enclosure in the garage.
And did you, based on looking at that folder, was that camera always in that room?
No, it was not. It was originally set up in the kitchen, then moved to what I would describe as a living room, and then subsequently moved to the enclosure.
And when approximately does it start recording the events that happened in that enclosure?
On what date?
Yeah.
On January 5th.
Now, did you, for the purposes, for me, did you create a USB or the data that just pertains to the room for the purposes of trial?
I did.
Did you take all of the videos as they applied to the room between January 5th and then January 28th, which is the last day?
Yes.
Did you subcategorize each of those files, though, for convenience based on date?
Yes.
Permission to approach will be
16 is your next number, yes. And permission to approach granted. Can approach. At sidebar. All right, now you may proceed, Ms. Copeland.
Submitting to you this very tiny USB drive that I'm glad will be the clerk's responsibility henceforth. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Is that the USB drive that you put all of the videos in that from the Ring camera that were provided by Ring for the room?
Yes.
Between January 5th and January 28th. Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the state would like to move it into evidence.
All right, so same objection that was made at sidebar. All right, so same ruling. So the court will receive and accept State's Exhibit 16 in evidence over objection for the reasons stated on the record at sidebar.
Now, I want to just talk to you for a second so we can kind of explain to the jury how things are organized on here.
Okay.
For their purposes if they need to look at it later.
Okay.
So on this USB drive, you indicated that there is an index and then there are 23 separate file folders, one for each day. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Tell us what is on the index file.
So that index file is simply an Excel spreadsheet where the file name is listed next to a timestamp. That timestamp indicates the beginning of that file's playtime.
So I think we're going to show it to the jury here, and I'll make these a little bit bigger. So the far left, my left column, is that the file name for each file that's in the Excel spreadsheet?
So the far left column under start timestamp would
The one all the way over here that ends in MP4.
Yep. So that would be the file name associated with the video. Yes.
Okay. So when we look, we're going to open the folders in a minute, but when we look at each file name, there is a .mp4. That is the file name.
Yes, that's correct.
And then you said that this one has the timestamp. So the file name that is 1640781305000. That timestamp, would that be December 29th, 2021?
That is correct.
And it says 123505Z. What is Z?
So Z stands for Zulu time, which is also can be UTC. So what we do is we just need to take into account our time zone and subtract, because this was in December and January and prior to daylight savings, we would subtract 5 hours for our Eastern Standard Time.
Is Z Zulu time
Z
or
is Zulu.
UTC time something that's commonly used by electronic service providers
It is.
like Ring?
Yes,
So in order to figure out what time these are, you just subtract 5 from whatever that time is, and that is the Eastern Standard Time.
that's correct.
Is there a way also to tell the time just based on this number here?
Yes, so that file name is actually in a timestamp format. That timestamp is called Unix epoch time. And what it notates is the number of seconds or milliseconds that have passed since January 1st of 1970. So a simple online converter, you place the file name number into that converter and it'll provide you with the timestamp as provided on the left-hand side.
Can you do that math in your head?
I cannot.
No, you have to use a converter. So the easier way
Yes.
to get to the same answer is to just subtract 5.
Correct.
Okay, now I want to talk about just so because this is going to be the jury's evidence, so they're going to be able to look at it if they wish. Let's talk about what's in the folder. So the first day you said was January 28. When we open each, I'm sorry, January 5th. When you open up each file, we see all of these. And what are these?
So those will be the file names and just they'll be the video files themselves.
Okay, so for every single one, each one of these days is filled with video files, and each of these files is about a minute long.
That's correct.
And are they roughly in are they in chronological order, starting from the top to the bottom?
As long as they're properly sorted within the folder, yes.
And so we just take that, put it in the Excel spreadsheet, and that's how we know what time is at.
Yes, or that converter, but yes.
Or the converter. And so if we go through every single one of these, there's just videos upon videos.
That's correct.
Now, like we said, have you had the opportunity to go through them to kind of highlight moments of interaction between the defendant and the child?
I have.
And are there vast periods recorded where maybe nothing is really happening?
Yes.
Like when the child is sleeping,
Correct.
maybe moving in their sleep, that would have recorded minute videos.
That's correct.
Okay. But are there also moments recorded that categorize the interactions between the child and the defendant?
Yes.
Were you able to observe roughly time periods of how long the child is in the room?
Yes.
Tell me roughly some
So-
of the time periods that you were.
Overruled.
So yes, in observation, I observed the child within the enclosure for excess of 3 hours at times during the day and more than 10 plus hours overnight.
Now, did you observe periods during the day in which the child was in the enclosure without any lights on?
Yes.
And what was the observation of some of the time frames for that?
I'm sorry.
The time frames for that?
The durations.
An estimate.
Yeah, hours.
Now, in order to make this much data kind of understandable, did you make some notes for yourself about when some of those interactions occurred?
Yes. Yeah.
And then did I then convert some of that into montages of the videos?
Yes.
And have you had a chance to look at that?
I have.
And just so that we kind of understand what we're looking at when we look at the montage, are those parts of the day in which there are interactions?
They are.
When he leaves and when he comes in?
Yes.
And then when the parents come in?
Correct.
And so the times in between, would it be fair to say that those times in between are times where he's like still in the room?
Yes.
Or still outside the room?
Correct.
Depending on if he left or came in?
Yes.
Okay. Now, permission to approach what will be state 17, which is that composite exhibit.
You can approach.
Approaching with state 17. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Did you have a chance to look at it?
I did.
Is that the composite exhibit that I'm talking about?
It is.
So does it include not every single one of these videos,
Correct.
but the videos where there is an action or an interaction?
Yes.
So leaving, coming in,
Yes.
those types of things.
Yes.
And one for every single day.
Right.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move it into Estate 17.
Any objection?
All the objections already raised, Your Honor.
All right, so the same ruling with respect to 16, which means 17 will come in evidence over objection. But I want to note that with respect to 17, it is not all of the files that are in 16. It is a subset of those files representing actual interaction or
Yes.
contact. Okay, all right, good enough.
And Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to start publishing. I'm not going to publish all of it, but start.
Okay.
publishing it.
What's the time frame that you're looking at in terms of what you have to publish? Just so I know for time purposes.
I'll probably do about half an hour to 30 minutes right now, but then there's going to be a lot more.
Okay, all right.
This way.
It's your show at this point, so you're going to publish what you're going to publish at this point. If it's in evidence, I'm fine with you publishing it. And the jury already understands what publishing means. It means actually showing you what has been received by the court in evidence. And I would just point out to the jury, this is a subset. You can actually view the entirety of the videos if you like to do that as part of your deliberations. Yeah, we'll take care of that. Mr. Coakley, can you move the podium back so that there's unobstructed view? Does this does not?
It does have audio, Your Honor, so we might need to.
It does have audio, so we need to mute it.
We may need to troubleshoot that. User error.
Intending to mute the audio? All right, I just want to make sure. I thought this is what you're doing. Okay.
Is he still trying to screw something onto the wall or something? What in the heck?
Hi, bud.
Children, one in the room,
Yeah, come on in for a second. Yeah.
Bye. What are you doing? This is butt. Pulling butt.
Yeah.
Can I talk pulling butt?
Yeah, the bus. Yeah, sure.
Can I touch it?
Yeah. Sure.
Can I touch the regular?
Yeah. Okay, let's go. Oh.
You gonna play a little bit, or are you tired?
Yeah, we'll play a little bit. What'd you do that? Because I don't like, because there's, you can see like the carpet that's behind the wall, and when I want to sit right there, I want to see these pictures because I want to be on right under the AC, and I don't want that wire right there on the desk. No, I'm gonna get a light. No, you gotta put that back. I want that desk against the wall. Right now. Yeah, right now. Let's just do this. Put the stuff out of here for right now. I guess.
tell me something? Stand up. Tell me something? Don't tell me what. This is your one chance. Don't look at me like an asshole. You want to tell me something or not?
I have a nightmare.
Yeah, from where?
Blue bed.
Where?
Green bed.
Excuse me?
Green bed.
Stealing again? I mean, really?
What the fuck is wrong with you?
You're stealing,
fucking
like,
disappointing.
chocolate? I mean, you got so much stuff in your
You're
room.
fucking great. You're just such a disappointment. You're gonna lose. I'm gonna take you out of that school. And you're gonna be in this room.
He's gonna be.
You're this close. Because I can't trust shit you do. But put the ankle bracelet back on. And then you can try to fucking run away if you want and do all the bullshit you do. But I'm gonna lock your ass down.
Because those are for my toy.
Give me a fucking break.
Why are you little sick?
I'm sick of the bullshit. You're a big boy, you're gonna steal, you're gonna talk to police, I'm gonna give you a fucking real deal. Okay? You're gonna steal from our fucking house?
Again?
Give me a fucking break. What other shit do you got in here?
Nothing else.
Because you're gonna lose it all in about 2 seconds. Lose every fucking
It's
thing.
all gonna
All
be
this
smashed
shit.
real
Don't,
quick.
I told you not to unplug that fucking thing. Right?
Yeah.
You listen to me?
Yeah.
Bullshit,
No,
you
you
listen to me?
didn't. You
Just
told
unplugged
me
it.
to plug this in, and then you're just a liar, Ronan. Just keep lying. You lied earlier when I asked you. You can't. I'm gonna open everything up.
Stand up, stand in the corner. Good as always, right? Lose this, right? We're gonna lose this again? Same way? Is that what you wanna do?
I can't go through everything. I just want to look to the eyes.
I know, let's just do the basics.
Why are these in here? Are these yours?
No, Pierce just dumped it the other day. Why are you bringing them in there, Pierce? Why are you bringing them in there?
What do you got? All these things.
Why?
Sure there's a bunch of stuff in here. It's gonna be all.
Anything else you wanna tell us about before we find it? Get over there.
Why do you have this in here? This is not yours.
What?
Where are these in here? Who got these?
What are they?
This like belongs to the kids or.
See what your lion does? See what your lion does? You see it?
Is this?
We're going back to this?
Is this to keep your going late at night, lights and stuff? I don't know what you're doing. You just got ice cream with us, right? Why are you?
I'm this close to getting you a computer to do coding.
Yeah, right.
Do you deserve that shit now? Fuck no.
Okay, I'm just gonna take this out because obviously I can't trust them after all they've been. Just take this one out. Take this one out. Those are empty, right? Garbage anyway. And these, because obviously there's probably stuff in all of these.
Why did you move this? Was that a big lie? Yes. You could have a hidden spot and you couldn't be seen on the camera, right? But you're gonna lie to me. I want to have it this way so I can sit this way so I can do this. Right? Yeah. So you can access to the plug and recharge the device, right?
Why not earn stuff? Why? We said we're gonna get you a computer, we're gonna get all these things. Why? Well, it's hard. You were gonna have every kind of thing that you'd want. You just earn it. You just had tonight, so why are you gonna steal chocolate? You're getting cookies, you're getting ice cream, you're getting all these things, so why steal when you're getting all this stuff?
You go off the edge at school, you'll be done with school. You'll be in here homeschooling. And I told you that's a possibility. So go ahead and test me tomorrow by going to school and misbehaving or doing any shit you shouldn't do. Test me.
That's the January 5th of the video. Is there a similar video for every other day of the week for the time frame that was recovered by Ring?
There is.
Now, we see that the Eastern Standard Time is on, is converted. Is there one video where there is not the Eastern Standard Time?
Yes.
Did you look at that and do the conversion for me?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that now quickly. We are going to look at the other videos, but just so when we get there, we know, is that the last day in the room, which is January 28th?
That's correct.
Pull it up. So the first video, that is the ECOG time for January 28th, 2022. Can you tell us, and I will keep track, what that very first time is?
Yes, I'm going to refer to my notes, but the time for that would be 11:21 and 35 seconds UTC. Converted to Eastern Standard Time, that would be 6:21 in the morning, 35 seconds.
Okay. And so 6:21 in the morning is the first video. What's the next? Just go through what the next
You want to go in
videos
just
are. Yeah.
in chronological order?
Yeah.
You want me to give you the
Just give us the conversion time to
just the
Eastern
conversion
Standard Time.
times
Yes.
to Eastern Standard? Okay.
Right.
So the next one's going to be 6:43 and 7 seconds Eastern Standard.
Okay, go ahead.
The next one would be 6:44, 13 seconds.
Right.
The next would be 7:10 and 4 seconds AM. The next would be 7:20 and 44 seconds Eastern.
Go ahead.
The next would be 7:21 and 50 seconds AM, and that's Eastern Standard Time. The following would be 7:57 and 23 seconds Eastern Standard Time, AM. The next would be 8:31 and 8 seconds Eastern Standard Time, again in the morning. And then finally, 9:02 and 38 seconds Eastern Standard Time, and that would be in the morning still.
And then that's the last time that the victim in this case is depicted in the room.
Correct.
Is 9:02 a.m. on January 28th, 2022.
That's correct. Yes.
There's one other one that's missing, right?
Yes.
Which on January 17th,
16th.
16th.
Yes.
And what time is missing on that one?
So on the first video, the time that's missing is 5:23 and 44 seconds AM Eastern Standard Time.
All the rest of them have the appropriate
Yes.
Eastern Standard Time, right?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about the fact that there were some things that were picked up on additional cameras as well, right?
Yes.
I want to show you a few videos. We've heard so far in this case that on occasion the victim in this case was asked to rake or pick up shells outside the home. Was some of that recorded or found on some of the ring camera videos that the return came back on?
Yes.
Permission to approach.
Granted.
Your Honor, will be states 18. Your Honor.
Ms. Coakley, how long is this next publishing?
It's going to be short.
I plan on breaking today about 5 minutes to 5, so that's the reason I'm asking. Mark, so that he left, he didn't come back? You didn't have to tell him he wasn't, he was persona non grata? Or he- All right. Okay. Okay. Fine. You know, Mark, I typically like the blinds open so I can see the view, but I understand that with the cameras, it probably creates too much light for them. Yeah. No, it's fine. And, you know, without the cameras, I prefer to have the view. Look at the intercoastal. We're good? Okay, Ms. Coakley, you ready to proceed? All right, Mark, you can bring the jurors out. We'll get started. And I'm sorry, Ms. Coakley, how long did you say you think the publishing?
These are like, I'm just going to show like 2 minutes.
All right, so when you get around close to 10 minutes till, start to look for a stop off.
I'm going to be done with direct in a minute because I'm not going to
Okay.
publish with everything with him on the stand.
Okay, all right, I'm with you. All right.
I might have to call him back like tomorrow briefly, but for
Jury entering.
All right, everyone may be seated. All right, Ms. Coakley, you may continue.
I showed you what's going to be marked for evidence. It states 18, which, am I 18? Am I right, Madam Clerk?
Your next exhibit is 18.
Thank you so much. 18, one of them was a video, I showed you 2 different USBs, correct?
Correct.
And did you recognize the videos in both?
Yes.
Are they from the doorbell angle camera from the Ferriter's home?
Yes.
And they're just like a selected 4 or 5 videos for each of the 2 topics, correct?
Yes.
And the first one that's going to be marked as states 18 involves the shells. Are those the true and accurate videos that you received from Ring?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to move them into evidence as states 18.
Okay, Ms. Murad, you're going to renew your objection made at sidebar. All right, so the court's ruling at sidebar will remain the same. So the court receives and accepts States Exhibit 18 in evidence over objection as stated at sidebar.
And states 19, you reviewed as well. Does that also show a similar view, but this time the child, instead of with the shells, is raking leaves?
Yes.
And it also shows him trying to get in the house and it not being open.
Overruled.
Yes.
Are they true and accurate depictions of the videos that you received from Ring?
Yes.
Now, these two video ring cameras, we talked a lot about the date and time associated with the videos in the room. Did Ring provide the data for the date and time for these videos?
I did not observe date and time associated files.
And the file name for these, is it the same way where we could just put the file name in, or is it a different, they use some sort of different file naming system for that?
It is not the same format as the previously observed files. It has a unknown to me reason of creation. It is not the epoch or the Unix timestamp that we had previously gone over.
Right, and that's just Ring didn't provide you that information.
Correct.
And so in this case, you don't know whether or not Ring preserved that information, or if maybe the way that the cameras were set up weren't set up to retain that type of information.
Correct.
Now, there's only like 4 or 5 videos on each one. Were these part of a much longer depiction of the same thing over and over?
Yes.
So the child,
Microphone.
So the child doing the rocks, that happened over a much longer. There's many more videos of him doing the same thing over and over.
Yes.
So these are just to illustrate.
Correct.
Okay. So let's go to states 18 and just take a look at one. And just for the record, I'm publishing 705-085-752 566-068-7348.
For 18, right?
For that's on 18.
And you're not at 19 yet, right?
No.
Okay, all right, good. All right, so you're asking for permission to